To be a great poker player, you've got to get good at hand reading, which is the process of deducing the types of hands that your opponent might have based on all the known information at the table. This information includes things like bet sizes, your position relative to your opponent's general style, as well as the community cards that have been dealt so far. Some famous pros might have you believe they can actually pinpoint their opponent's hand to one specific hand. This is largely untrue. It's very rare that you can even come close to knowing the exact hand your opponent has. In general, we're actually striving to create a small group of hands that our opponent might have and make our decisions based on that small set. That small group of hands is called a hand range. Hand ranges start out pretty large pre-flop. And then they ideally, based on your powers of deduction, shrink by the river. Pre-flop, you might actually have over 30 hands in the hand range that you construct for your opponent. You get more information on the flop, and it shrinks again on the turn, and by the river, hopefully you've got it down to something like less than 5 hands. This is going to help you make really difficult decisions on the turn and river. It's going to help you pick off bluffs when your opponent's river betting doesn't match up with the possible hands that you've put in his hand range. Let's go through an example. So we're seated on the dealer button. Let's just say we have pocket twos. The villain in this situation is under the gun, and we don't know what he has, but he raises 5 times the big blind. We're at 5-10, and he sticks in 50 chips. So that's actually a big betting tell. Most seasoned players will only bet between 2 and 3 times the big blind from any position. So beginners typically bet 5 times the big blind when they have one of the top 5 hands in poker. So our range is already pretty small. This is great for us. Bad for our opponent, but we put him on aces, kings, queens, jacks, and ace-king. It's the top 5 hands in the game, so naturally, everybody else at the table sees this. It folds around to us, and we like our spot. We're going to have position the rest of the hand, even if the small and big blind calls as well. We're going to set mine here, so we stick in our own 50. Small and big blind actually fold, so it's a heads-up pot to the flop. There's 115 chips in the pot. We know we have 2-2, but let's for a moment imagine what our opponent is thinking about our range. He sees we have position, so we could have a ton of hands here. Probably any pair, twos all the way through queens. I think we re-raise with kings and aces, considering we're doing pretty well against his range when we have kings and aces, and we'd like to build a bigger pot pre-flop. We could also have suited connectors. Anywhere from 7-8 suited all the way up to, of course, ace-king suited. And we might even call with ace-queen suited and offsuit. Altogether, this is about 20 hands. So we have 20 hands. He has 5. We already have this huge advantage. We have him pinpointed down to about 5 hands, and he has to imagine we have 20 hands. So he's going to be much easier for us to play on the flop, and we're going to be harder for him to play against. The flop comes out 2, king, 9. Fantastic news for us. We flopped a set, and we're in position. So let's see what our opponent does. He actually checks. What does this do to our range that we have written down for him? Well, I think he would typically continue his pre-flop lead and donk bet into us if he has a good hand. So aces are obviously crushing our range. I think he would bet it actually. So his check removes that from his range. Same with kings. I sort of see that he has queens or jacks. He's scared of the king. And he wants to pot control a little bit, maybe make his move on the turn. Ace-king as well, I think you would bet out here with. So we'll stop this hand example here, but you get the point that as you get more and more information on the flop, turn, and river, you should be shaving off hands from whatever your starting hand range was for your opponent. And in some situations, you can actually go very quickly from a large set, 5, 10, 20, 30, down to your goal, which is less than 5. And in some cases, you can get your opponent down to 1 or 2 hands. If you have more history with your opponent, this line can actually shift down. The trend is always going to be big range pre-flop to smaller range by the river. But if you know your opponent really well and you have a lot of hand history with them and you've been paying close attention, that starting range, let's say instead of 30 hands, might be only 20, which is where value comes from paying attention to your opponent's behavior and knowing what types of hands he'll play from different positions and how much he'll bet when he does play those hands. So I have some trivia for you. There was actually an error in that video when our opponent leads out on the flop. It's not a donk bet. If you watch our donk bet video, you'll learn that the bet needs to be made out of position without the lead. But our villain in this situation has the lead. He raised pre-flop. So if it's not a donk bet, what is it? Let us know in the comments below.